student from Columbia University, and she's currently interviewing our department for faculty position. And today she's going to talk about elastic block ciphers. Without further ado.
Okay. I'd like to thank everyone for coming. The elastic block cipher work is my thesis work. Okay. Now,
is the microphone on? Or the microphone? Just for me.
Okay.
Could you speak a little more loudly?
Okay, thank you. All right. This is the topic of my thesis. So, for those of you who are not familiar with block ciphers, there are symmetric key algorithms for encrypting data. And they work by taking data in small segments, such as 16 bytes, and processing it, and then going on to the next block of data. What I've done is created a method for taking existing block ciphers and converting them into ciphers that will work on a variable size of blocks. So for example, I can encrypt 16 bytes, 16 plus 1 bits, or 17 bytes, and so forth. And the resulting cipher is called an elastic block cipher. Okay. What this does is it allows applications to set the block size that they want to use when encrypting data, and it does so in a manner such that the workload for encrypting is proportional to the block size. Okay. My method uses a structure which I call the elastic network. It's an underlying structure for my algorithm. And by this structure, I'm able to relate the security of the elastic version of a block cipher back to the original cipher. And this is very important because it means I don't have to take the elastic version of a block cipher and analyze it against all known attacks. If the original cipher is well analyzed, I can benefit from that. Okay. And the elastic network is also of theoretical interest because it allows for the creation of variable and pseudorandom permutations and strong pseudorandom permutations. And I'll explain what those are later in the talk for those of you who don't know. Okay. And that was our open question. So far, there has not been a way of doing that. Okay. So during the talk, I'd like to just give a few background definitions first to define what a block cipher is. Then I'll describe the reason I was looking at this work, some background information on block ciphers and previous approaches to this problem. Then I'll define my approach and the key results of my analysis. And in summary, I would like to briefly mention a couple of other projects I've worked on and some ideas I have for future research. Right, now, block ciphers at a very high level is just an encryption algorithm that takes the plain text and a key and outputs the ciphertext. The ciphertext would be the same length as the plain text. And then the algorithm will have an inverse called the decryption function, which will take the ciphertext and plain text and output the key. Now, if someone has access to a list of ciphertexts, that should not convey any information about the key or the plain text. If someone has access to a set of plain text ciphertext pairs, that should not convey any information about the key. Now, the block ciphers used in practice are all structured as a series of rounds. So there's a function called the round function, which the plain text is the input to the first round, and the output of the ith round becomes the input to the ith plus first round. Okay. The plain text and the ciphertext are typically 16 bytes or 32 bytes, with 16 being the most common. Okay. And the key that is given to the cipher is fed into another function called the key schedule, which expands it to a longer bit string, and that's used as round keys for each of the round functions. Now, my method is going to keep this round function intact and just add steps between the rounds. Okay. So what an elastic block cipher is you're taking the b-bit cipher that works on a fixed size input and converting it to a cipher that works on b plus y bits, where y is between 0 and b. And the performance is going to be proportional to the block size. And this is going to maintain the security properties of the original cipher. Okay. So as an example, if I take AES, which is a standard block cipher, and it works on 16-byte blocks, and I could create the elastic version of it, then I can encrypt anywhere from 128 to 256 bits without using padding. And so if I want to encrypt 172 bytes by itself, I can do that. Okay. Now, I was looking at this for both practical and theoretical reasons. Okay. In practice, because existing block ciphers work on a fixed size block, it makes it easier to design them and implement them. However, this doesn't match up with what real-world applications need. So if I go to encrypt data with a 16-byte block cipher, the data is broken up into 16-byte segments, and each segment is encrypted. If I don't have enough bytes left over at the end for another 16-byte segment, I add something called padding, which is just appending zeros and ones onto the end of the data, so I have a full 16-byte block. So if I want to encrypt 20 bytes with a 16-byte block cipher, I add 12 bytes of padding on, so now my plain text is 32 bytes, and my ciphertext is going to be 32 bytes. I also have to encode 2 full applications of the block cipher because I now have 2 full blocks of data. Whereas I would like to just encrypt the 20 bytes as 20 bytes and occur about 1.25 times the application of the block cipher. Now, padding isn't a big issue if you have a fairly large segment of data, such as if you're encrypting files. Adding a few bytes onto the end is not an issue. But if you have applications that typically encrypt small segments of data, for example, IP packets or databases encrypting at the row or field level, the padding becomes a significant amount of overhead. Okay, so if I have variable-sized blocks, I can reduce the storage overhead and processing time in databases. And in IP applications, encryption would not be a cause for packet fragmentation. If your payload is approaching the maximum transmission unit, no longer will you have to add padding on that could cause it to exceed the MTU and cause packet fragmentation. So as an example, if you consider a database, this is from a benchmark on databases for online bookstores. It's typical of what Barnes & Noble or Amazon.com might say about a customer. Okay. Now the fields in purple are those that have to be padded with a 16-byte block cipher and which do not have to be padded otherwise. The fields in black require padding no matter what because I'm going to need a minimum of 16 bytes or the original block size. And one field is already 16 bytes, so it has no padding, the phone number. Now, if I want to query a database, I don't want to encrypt the entire database as one large file because then I have to decrypt the whole thing to perform my query. Likewise for a table, I don't want to encrypt the entire table because that makes querying slow. So I want to encrypt at a more granular level, say the field, row, or column level. Well, if I encrypt these tables at the individual row level, the padding accounts for about 4% of the resulting ciphertext. There's a 4% overhead. If I encrypt at the field level to allow faster querying, in the address table, there's a 17% overhead, meaning my ciphertext is now 1.17 times longer than it needs to be because I used padding. The customer table is even worse. There's a 40% overhead if I pad the fields out instead of using a variable length block cipher. Okay. Now, the number of bytes for individual row or field entry may not seem like a lot, but it adds up over millions of records. So cutting out the overhead will reduce query time, insertion, and deletion times. And then over the entire database, you have fewer bits, so it takes less time to back up and retrieve it. Okay. From a theoretical perspective, how to design an elastic block cipher, either by using a new cipher or taking an existing one and modifying it, such that you have provable security and that the workload is proportional to the block size, was an open question. There's been previous approaches that were either computationally efficient but proven to be insecure, or they were proven to be secure but were very inefficient computationally. Okay. Now, my work has also led to some insights on block cipher design in general. My elastic network structure I can use for block ciphers in general. It doesn't have to be just for the variable length ones. And my work has led to some insights on key schedules for block ciphers, which I will go into later. Now, one of the reasons why there aren't variable length block ciphers used in practice, aside from it being easier to design them or fixed size blocks, is that the standards competitions never require variable size blocks. They don't actually specify what block sizes need to be supported. They just say you have to support a minimum of 128 bits and say nothing else. As a result, they don't get variable length submissions. Another trait that's common in block ciphers is every time someone designs one, they always propose a new key schedule. The key schedule can be a standalone function. There's no reason why something that already exists can't be used to expand the key bits. And when block ciphers are designed, everyone focuses on having a fast key schedule, but this leads to a complete lack of randomness in the expanded key bits and is actually the cause of certain types of attacks. What I've done in my work is decided to have a standalone key schedule that I can use for any block cipher, and I wanted it to be outputting pseudo-random bits with the trade-off that is slower than what the key schedules are today, such as AESs, to get around some of the attacks that exist because of key schedules. Okay. Now, a few other comments on block ciphers. Aside from being structured as a series of rounds, one common structure found in block ciphers is a Feistel network. Okay. And what typically is called the Feistel network is a balanced Feistel network. The b-bit block of data is broken in half. One half goes through the round function that's XORed with the other half, and then the parts are swapped. The point at which two round functions are applied is called a cycle. Now, the neat thing about this and why it's used in some block ciphers is that this is my encryption function going from top to bottom. To decrypt, all I do is reverse the errors at the bottom and at the top and run this backwards. I don't have to change the round function. Thus, the round function does not have to be invertible. Okay, there's also a concept of an unbalanced FISO network in which the B-bit data is divided into two unequal portions. Okay. Now, I'm pointing this out because my elastic network structure is similar to the FISO network, but there's a key difference that allows it to be used for the variable length block ciphers, whereas it turns out I could not use the FISO network for the variable length block ciphers. One other point about block ciphers, they really are heuristics. While the round functions will have well-defined mathematical properties, the overall structure, including how many rounds to run, is a heuristic. There's no general proof that you could plug a block cipher into and say it's secure against all known attacks. Instead, you have to analyze it against known attacks, and if no one can break it, then it's thought to be secure. Okay, this is a key point because it makes it very difficult to design a block cipher. Obviously, it's easy to overlook something. You can have an algorithm that you think is secure, and then a couple years later, someone attacks it. Thus, this is why I didn't want to design something from scratch. I wanted to take existing ciphers and reuse their well-defined and analyzed properties and just convert them to variable length block ciphers. Okay. Now, there's been a couple previous approaches to create variable length block ciphers. They fall into two categories, either designing a cipher from scratch, of which I list a couple examples, and these have been proven to be insecure. The other approach has been to take a block cipher and treat it as a black box and apply it multiple times along with some other operations. Now, Blair and Rogaway have a construction that is provably secure. So if they take a block cipher, they can create a variable length one from it and prove the security of the variable length one in terms of the original cipher. However, it's computationally inefficient. And there was a modification suggested to the construction 2 years ago in 2004. Now, my approach is most similar to Blair and Rogaway because I'm going to take the round function and treat it as a black box instead of the entire cipher. So I want to go through what they did a little bit. Okay. Here they have the data encryption standard DES in their diagram as the block cipher they're using. And this was the standard previous to AES. Okay. What they do is they take the plain text, which is not an integral number of B bits, and they pad it until it is. Then they apply the block cipher in something called CBC mode, cipher block chaining mode. The last block out of there is encrypted again, and you get a value called sigma. Sigma is then used as input to the block cipher in something called counter mode, which will encrypt sigma, sigma plus 1, sigma plus 2, until it has enough bits to XOR with the original plaintext, this M1 through M3 portion here. Then the result of that XOR plus sigma is the ciphertext. So the ciphertext is the same length as the plaintext. But think of what happens if I just want to encrypt 1 plus a fractional block. That's the M3, M4 portion here. I incur 3 full applications of the cipher to get sigma, 1 more to get enough bits to XOR with the M3 portion. So I have 4 entire applications of the cipher plus additional minor steps to encrypt 1 plus a fractional block. That's more than twice the work of padding the data. So this is computationally inefficient. And the modification that was suggested to this was to replace the CBC portion here with a hash function. So I still end up with 2 full applications of the block cipher plus a hash function to encrypt 1 plus a fractional block, which is also computationally inefficient. So what I did was I wanted to succeed where Blair and Rogaway did with relating the security of the elastic version of a cipher directly to that of the original cipher. But I also wanted computational efficiency. Okay, so I've created the elastic network structure that allows me to convert the original block cipher to a variable length one. And in addition, from a theoretical standpoint, I can create variable length PRPs and SPRPs from this elastic network. Okay. Now, when defining my algorithm, I'll call the original block cipher G and the elastic version G prime. G will take B bit blocks, and G prime will take B plus Y bit blocks, where Y is between 0 and B. Okay. And this is going to work for any block cipher used in practice because they're all structured as a series of rounds. Now, the easiest way to understand this is to look at a diagram. Okay. This round function here is from G, so right here is the round function of G. I take that and I continue to let it take B bit inputs, and then Y bits are going to be left out of the round. After the round, I apply something called whitening. This is just XORing with key bits. It's a common step found in block ciphers. So if it's present, it's expanded to cover the entire B plus Y bit block. If it's not present, it's added in. Then I take Y bits that came out of this round function, I XOR them with the Y bits that were left out, and I swap the 2 pieces. what this does is it allows every bit that just came out of the block, the round function of the block cipher, to influence the next round. And the bits that were left out are now moved into the input to the next round, and thus will influence the next round. Then a key-dependent mixing step, which is just a key-dependent rotation in my constructions, is added at the beginning and the end. This is solely to prevent an attacker from knowing exactly which Y bits are left out of the first round of encryption or decryption with probability 1. Because if the attacker knows in the plaintext these Y bits are left out of the first round, in differential cryptanalysis, these Y bits, this round then becomes useless because I have a differential characteristic that holds for one round with probability 1. So this mixing step was to prevent that. Okay. And finally, the number of rounds are set based on the original number of rounds or plus the block size. This results in every bit position becoming direct input to the round function at least the same number of times as it did in the original cipher. Okay. Now, a few notes on this algorithm. When decrypting, the round function has to be replaced by its inverse, unlike a Feistel network. But if my original cipher was a Feistel network, thus that round function may not be invertible, I actually use a cycle from the Feistel network, which is its own inverse. Okay. Diffusion refers to bits impacting other bits. In an ideal block cipher, if you change one bit of the plaintext, every bit of the ciphertext should change with probability 1/2. Okay. In the elastic block cipher, every bit is going to impact at least the second through last round, because obviously Y bits are not in the first round. Okay. If it takes I rounds in G for every bit to impact every other bit, it will take at most I plus 1 rounds in G prime. Okay. And now for the key schedule. Obviously, G prime needs more expanded key bits in G because I have whitening covering B plus Y bits. I need some key bits for the mixing step, and I have more rounds. So I decided to use a stream cipher, specifically RC4, as my key schedule, so I would have more pseudo-random key bits than existing key schedules, and also have a standalone function that I can use in any block cipher. On the downside, using RC4 for the key schedule is 6 to 8 times slower than using AES's key schedule. Now, I've created 4 concrete examples of the elastic block cipher, AES, MIST-T1, Camilla, and RC6. These are finalists from standards competitions, not necessarily the winners. And I chose them because they represent different structures found in block ciphers. They're all a series of rounds, and MIST-T1 and Camilla are actually Feistel networks, but they have different structures in them. So this was done to demonstrate my method is applicable in general to block ciphers. Okay. And I measured the performance using the elastic version compared to the original with padding to demonstrate the performance gain. I also measured the randomness of the outputs. In the standards competitions, there are statistical tests run on the block ciphers. And if a cipher passes these tests, it doesn't mean the cipher is secure. But if it fails them, it means there's some obvious flaw in the cipher. And I used the same tests that were used by NIST for the AES competition, and there's no obvious flaws in the elastic versions of these 4 ciphers. Okay. Now, elastic AES was one of the examples. So regular AES, which works on 16-byte blocks, is defined as follows. There's 10 rounds. The first 9 are identical. The last round omits 1 step. Okay. The add round key step in AES is just whitening. It's XORing with key bits, not addition. So to create the elastic version of this, I take the round function and I just put it into the elastic network. So here's the round function. I expand the whitening steps to cover all B plus Y bits. And the last round, I continue to omit the 1 step that AES did. Then the number of rounds are set based on the number of rounds of AES plus the original block size plus Y. Okay. Now, there's a significant performance gain when using the elastic version to encrypt block sizes that are just over 16 bytes. Compared to using padding. Okay. So on this chart, I encrypted every block size in byte size increments from 17 bytes to 32 bytes. And the number of rounds in the elastic version is showing underneath the block size. Okay. Then I also took the blocks and I padded each of them out until they were 2 full blocks and encrypted it with regular AES. So to encrypt 17 bytes, I padded it until it was 32 bytes and encrypted it with regular AES. And the time it took me to encrypt 100 17-byte blocks with padding using regular AES, I can encrypt 190 such blocks with the elastic AES. Now obviously, as my block size approaches 32 bytes, the number of rounds in the elastic version becomes 20, which is the same as 2 full applications of AES. Plus I had the additional steps between rounds, so the performance of the elastic version becomes slightly less than that of the original cipher as I approach 2 full blocks. Now, in the security analysis, the first thing I wanted to do was to relate the security of the elastic version to that of the original cipher. I didn't want to have to analyze the elastic version against all known attacks. Okay. So I've been able to relate the security of G prime against key recovery attacks to that of G. Now, all concrete attacks, linear cryptanalysis differential, higher order differentials, attempt to recover the round keys. Okay. And this result is going to be independent of the specific cipher. Now, aside from this, if you just consider attacks due to the key schedule, such as related key attacks and slide attacks as one example, these attacks go away as soon as I start using a pseudo-random generator for the key schedule, because they were entirely due to the lack of randomness in the original cipher's key schedules. If you look at AES's key schedule, for example, most of the expanded key bits are just the XOR of two previous expanded key bits, and then every fourth one is the XOR plus the addition of a constant and a table lookup. So they're very highly structured. If you find a couple of the expanded key bits, you can easily find the rest. Thus, removing that removes these attacks. Okay. I also wanted to consider a few specific attacks in more detail. So I looked at linear and differential cryptanalysis. And these are the two most basic types of attacks on block ciphers. Linear cryptanalysis works as follows. An attacker attempts to find equations relating the plaintext, ciphertext, and key bits. And the equations will just involve XORs. If he finds any that occur with probability different enough from 1/2, he can plug in known plaintext, ciphertext pairs to the equations and obtain some of the key bits. Then if he has enough expanded key bits, he can plug them back into the key schedule with existing ciphers and obtain the remainder of the key. Or if the cipher is really badly designed, he might be able to obtain most of the expanded key bits and guess the rest of them. Now, this same idea of just finding equations relating to plaintext, ciphertext, and key bits applies to any type of operations. So there's also the idea of nonlinear cryptanalysis, where you just use any type of equations relating the plaintext, ciphertext, and key bits and apply the same ideal. Okay. So I'm able to show that if I have any such equations for G prime, I can easily convert them into G, and they'll actually involve fewer variables. Thus, if G is immune to an attack, so much G prime B. Okay. Now, with differential cryptanalysis, what happens here is the attacker will find plaintexts and ciphertexts. If you take the XOR of the plaintext and call that delta P, and the XOR of their corresponding ciphertexts and call that delta C, so you have delta P up here, delta C at the bottom. Consider what the deltas are in the inputs and outputs of each round. And that sequence of deltas is called the differential characteristic. Okay. Well, if a differential characteristic occurs with some non-negligible probability, and an attacker has enough plaintext ciphertext pairs, he can use the plaintexts and ciphertexts and find ones which correspond to the deltas he's looking for, and then assume that the delta inputs and outputs of each round will correspond to this differential characteristic. And he could possibly use that to find the round key bits. Okay. So when block ciphers are defined, the differential probability for a given one application of the round function is always determined. And from that, you can determine the differential probability over all rounds in the cipher. Well, using the differential probabilities for the actual 4 ciphers I looked at, I could determine the differential bound for the elastic versions of the cipher and prove that a differential attack is not feasible on the elastic versions if it's not feasible on the original ciphers. Okay. Now, of the security results, the most important was the first one I mentioned, the reduction. Okay, so what that specifically says is that there's an attack on G prime that allows the round keys to be recovered for R consecutive rounds. There's a corresponding polynomial time attack on G, which will find the round keys for R rounds of G. And the only assumption is that the key schedule does not depend on the plaintext or ciphertext. And that's true of key schedules and block ciphers used in practice and in my elastic versions. Okay. So this is very important because, again, it means I did not have to analyze the cipher against all known attacks. Okay. I won't go through the proof, but I just want to state the intuition for it. There's actually 2 ways of proving this. And they're due to the fact that there's an instance of G embedded in G prime. And this will allow the round keys for G prime to be converted to round keys for G. When I say there's an instance of G in G prime, if I look at how the leftmost B bits were processed throughout G prime, well, that was designed on purpose to be almost identical to G, except for this swapping of bits in here. Well, if I perform the whitening step and the swapping of bits and get the result here, that just corresponds to whitening with some other key bits. Actually, only Y of them are going to change. So this is now an instance of G on the leftmost B bits across R rounds that just happens to have whitening, which is specific for a plaintext ciphertext pair. Well, I can use that to convert the round keys for G prime into those for G. So if I take a set of plaintext ciphertext pairs for G, one method of attacking, performing the attack on G is to extend those plaintext ciphertext pairs to be data for G prime, run the attack on G prime across R rounds to find the initial whitening in the first round key. I then use the leftmost B bits of those in that first round key in G. I run one round of G, get the output, use that as my new plaintext, and repeat the process. So I will find the round keys for G one round at a time by repeatedly applying the attack on G prime, on R rounds and R minus 1 rounds, and so forth. So in the worst case, I'm going to have n applications of G. I have to apply the attack on G prime on R rounds for order n R squared rounds of G prime will be run. Now there's another way of doing this that's more computationally efficient, but it only works on small values of Y. And I won't go through that here. Now aside from looking at the actual examples of elastic block ciphers, I wanted to look at the elastic network also. And I compared it to a Feistel network because that's the structure to which it's most similar to. Okay? And each has its advantages and disadvantages. Feistel networks have also been well analyzed. The most famous result is probably by Luby and Rakoff. They showed how to create B-bit PRPs and S-PRPs from a B over 2-bit PRF using a Feistel network. So I wanted to see if I could somehow create pseudorandom permutations and strong pseudorandom permutations for using the elastic network. Okay. Well, the first thing I did was I compared the elastic network to the Feistel network. Now, it turns out you can't use the Feistel network to create the elastic block ciphers because what I wanted to do was just take the round function of any block cipher and plug it into the network and not have to worry about the internals of the round function or modifying it. Well, with the Feistel network, the first problem is if I'm working on variable size blocks, I would have a B-bit portion and a Y-bit portion. And Y would be less than or equal to B. Well, the round function, if I take it out of the existing block cipher, is going to be mapping B bits to B bits. And I only need Y here. Well, I could just say I'm going to take Y bits out of the round function and use them in this XOR. So that part can work. But then if I do that, some of the B bits that just went through the round function won't have any impact in the XOR. And since I know nothing about the round function and don't really want to know anything about it, those B bits might actually be ones that end up on the far right over here and not go into the next round. And that sequence can be repeated every pair of rounds. Thus, no matter what the rate of diffusion is for the original block cipher, I can't say anything about the rate of the diffusion if I try to use the unbalanced Feistel network. There might not be complete diffusion by using the unbalanced Feistel network. In contrast, in the elastic network, once a bit goes through the round function, it continues to be input to the next round and impact all subsequent rounds. Thus, I can say it will take at most one more rounds in G prime to have complete diffusion compared to G. Okay. Now, the other thing I said I wanted to do was see what I could do about creating PRPs and SPRPs. So Luby and Rakoff were able to take a B over 2-bit pseudorandom function and create a B-bit pseudorandom permutation using a 3-round Feistel network and a B-bit strong pseudorandom permutation using a 4-round Feistel network. So they're creating fixed-size PRPs and SPRPs from a fixed-size PRF. Okay. Well, with the elastic network, I'm able to take B-bit PRPs and create B plus Y-bit PRPs and B plus Y-bit SPRPs, also using 3 or 4 rounds. Okay. And if I wanted to, I could take B-bit PRFs and use a cycle from the Feistel network as my round function in the elastic network and create B plus Y-bit PRPs and SPRPs using B over 2-bit PRFs. Okay. So what I've done is created variable length PRPs and SPRPs from fixed size ones and also from fixed size PRFs, and that had not been done before. Okay. Now, in order to explain what PRPs and SPRPs are in terms of block ciphers, I need to define a couple terms. In attacking block ciphers, there's the concept of the plaintext ciphertext query. Okay. If I have a black box that contains the block cipher, and I'm allowed to request that plain text be encrypted, see the result, and then make my next request, that's called an adaptive chosen plain text query. If I'm able to do the same thing, except now I'm asking for ciphertexts to be decrypted, that's called an adaptive chosen ciphertext query. And if I'm able to make queries in both directions, I see the output before I make my next query, that's called an adaptive chosen plain text, adaptive chosen ciphertext query. Now, if an attacker is given a black box, and he's told it either contains the block cipher or a random permutation, but not which one, and he's able to either make plain text queries or ciphertext queries, but not both, and he can't determine what's in the box, then the block cipher is said to be a pseudo-random permutation. Now, if I had the same scenario, but this time the attacker is able to make both the plaintext and ciphertext queries, so he can ask for a plaintext to be encrypted, then a ciphertext be decrypted, and continue on, and he still can't determine what's in the black box, then the block cipher is said to be a strong pseudo-random permutation. An ideal block cipher should be a SPRP. Now, in order to demonstrate what a plaintext query is, and to show you why I needed to start with at least 3 rounds, I'll show you why a 2-round elastic network is not a PRP. And to show it's not a PRP, I just need to show that it was not for one value of y. So here, my y bit portion will be indicated by y1 and y2, and they're actually going to be b bits. So this is going to be a 2b block of data, a 2b bit block of data. Okay. Now, if I hold the left b bits constant and vary the rightmost y bits, and I make 2 queries with that, and let this be my ciphertext, C1 XOR Z1 equals C2 XOR Z2 with probability 1, no matter what the round functions are. And that just follows by tracing the variables through the 2 rounds. Thus, this cannot be a PRP. Okay. However, if I add a 3rd round, I do get a PRP. And I prove this first by showing that if I have a 3-round network where all the round functions are really random permutations, and that ends up creating a pseudo-random permutation, I can then show that the 3-round elastic network in which the round functions are pseudo-random permutations is also a pseudo-random permutation. Okay, so the intuition for this is as follows. I have this 3-round network on the right, and each round function is an independently chosen random permutation. So this is going to be my basic case. Well, the C2 portion of the output comes from the structure in the middle, which itself turns out to be a pseudo-random permutation, and the Y3 portion comes from the structure on the left, which is also a pseudo-random permutation. If I vary any bit in the input, either in X1 or Y1 or both, I change the output of or C1 and C2 both unpredictably. So I can use that to show that this whole structure is itself a PRP. Okay. Now, once I have that, I want to see what I can say about this structure where the round functions are PRPs. Well, I have N0 on the left is a PRP. I want to see what I can say about N3 on the right. If I take N0 and round by round replace the random permutation with a pseudo-random permutation, I will get N1, then N2, then N3. Now, if N3 is not a PRP, I must be able to distinguish it from N0 because that is. Well, if I could distinguish N3 from N0, then by the triangle inequality, I could either distinguish N1 from N0, N2 from N1, or N3 from N2. Okay. Well, without loss of generality, suppose I could distinguish N1 from N0. That means I could tell that this has a PRP in one round where N0 has a random permutation. Thus, I could distinguish a random permutation, a PRP from a random permutation. That contradicts the definition of a PRP. Therefore, I can't distinguish N1 from N0, or likewise N2 from N1, N3 from N2. Therefore, N3 is a PRP. And that's just the direct triangle inequality, so I won't walk through that. Okay. Now, while it is a PRP, 3 rounds are not an SPRP, and I'll demonstrate why with a plaintext ciphertext query. Again, I'll let the Y bit portion be B bits and hold the B bit portion constant. So if I make those 2 queries as shown, and I get C1, Z1 as one ciphertext, C2, Z2 as another, I'll take those 2 ciphertexts, and I'll create 2 new ciphertexts. One ciphertext is C1, Z1 XOR Z2, then C2 followed by Z1 XOR Z2. If I ask for them to be decrypted, and this is a 3-round elastic network, then Y3 XOR Y4 will equal Z1 XOR Z2 with probability 1. And this will follow directly by tracing the variables through the rounds. This is no matter what the round functions are. Thus, this cannot be a SPRP because I could use plaintext ciphertext queries to distinguish it from random. Okay. However, if I add a fourth round, I can get an SPRP. And the intuition for this is because, well, each part of the output at the bottom has to go through at least 3 rounds, and 3 rounds is a PRP. So if I make queries in either direction, I'm going through at least a proven PRP, or something that I know is a PRP, before I get to the 4th round. Okay. So I could do something similar to what I did for the 3 rounds. Is first, I proved that a 4-round elastic network with random permutations as the round functions is a SPRP. Then I create the 4-round elastic networks as shown, and I try to distinguish N4 from N0, show that I can't to get a contradiction. Thus, N4 is the SPRP. Okay. Okay. And I won't go through that in detail. Now, what I've done is created variable length PRPs and SPRPs that will range from B to 2B bits. I can't go farther than 2B bits right now. Okay. But Halavi and Rogaway have a construction that will create B-bit SPRPs, 2B-bit SPRPs, 3B bits, and so forth. So they're not a variable length SPRP, but it is an integral multiple of B. Well, if we take their construction and plug it in as the round function to the elastic network, then I can get PRPs and SPRPs that range from 2 to 2MB bits for some limit or M. Thus, I now have a much larger range. Okay. Okay. So to summarize, I provided a method for creating variable length block ciphers from any existing block cipher that will offer computational and space savings compared to padding. Okay. I'm able to relate the security of the elastic version of a block cipher back to the original one, so I don't have to analyze the elastic versions from scratch. And my underlying structure that I use is useful in block cipher design in general, plus it allows for the creation of variable length PRPs and SPRPs. And I just wanted to briefly mention a couple other projects I worked on. The first was using graphics cards for cryptographic processing. Graphics cards or GPUs have become faster than CPUs for processing certain types of data, doing certain types of operations. As a result, there's been an increasing amount of research into using them as general purpose processors. So the question arose, well, can we encrypt a large segment of data in parallel by storing it as pixels and running the cipher in the GPU? I was able to implement AES to run in a graphics card. However, because graphics cards are good at certain types of operations involving floating point values and do not have direct byte level processing support, where CPUs are very good at byte level processing, there wasn't a performance gain here. But it did prove that encryption in the GPU was possible. Then I prototyped what could be done with encryption in the GPU. If you have applications that, such as thin clients or video conferencing, where someone is just going to go up to a terminal and not really run an application on the terminal, but just use it to view a display. Well, if you can encrypt and decrypt the display in the graphics card, that will protect the plain text from being exposed to that system. Thus, any malware or spyware in the system can't access the plain text. So for example, in thin clients, you would have the user's desktop sitting on a remote server. The server will be sending display updates to some client that a user happened to walk up to. Okay, and he doesn't know what's running on that client. Okay. Another project I looked at was proxy cryptography for symmetric key ciphers. Proxy cryptography refers to the following. If I encrypt data P with one key K1, and I wanted to convert it to the encryption of P with another key K2, is there a function that would perform that conversion either in less time than decrypting with K1 and encrypting with K2, and or by not exposing the plain text during the conversion? Well, it turns out for some public key ciphers, you can do this. And there's been published results from that. However, for a symmetric key cipher, if you do this, it applies a security flaw in the original cipher because the cipher actually ends up having to be a group. The function F takes less work than decrypting and encrypting. But if the cipher is structured as a series of rounds, you can develop trade-offs between the workload and the security of the, by encrypting with one key for a certain number of rounds and then encrypting with a different key. Going forward, some things I'd like to look at is human factors in security software, because no matter how many protocols or algorithms we have, if they're not easy to understand and implement, they end up being implemented incorrectly, or if they require some user interactions, such as the messages in your browser saying that a certificate is invalid or expired, and everyone just clicks OK, or the people not knowing what the little lock means at the bottom of the browsers now, then the security software becomes useless. Okay. Another idea is to look at machine learning and cryptanalysis. Okay. If there's a way to use machine learning techniques to find relationships between the plaintext, ciphertext, and key bits, that can help derive attacks for ciphers. Now, ideally, there should be no statistical relationship between the ciphertext and plaintext. However, the ciphers used in practice, when the statistical tests are done on them, they usually are said to pass if they pass with like 95% or 96% of the test passing. They don't pass 100% of the statistical tests. But there just isn't any relationship that anyone has been able to derive. So maybe using more automatic techniques would help derive some relationships in attack ciphers. Okay. And to extend my existing work, the elastic block cipher can be used for new modes of encryption, of which CBC was one of them, type of mode. And it can also be used possibly in a hash function by using the elastic network structure to vary the input size to the actual round or operations the hash function is performing. Okay. And in terms of the GPU-based work, since graphics cards currently are not or designed for certain types of operations that are found in existing ciphers, it might be beneficial to design a cipher that can run in the graphics card using graphics operations. And this can introduce new operations into ciphers that haven't been previously used because they weren't fast to perform on a CPU. Okay, and that concludes the talk. Are there any questions?
So I set a rule here that this side will ask questions first.
Just sort of a comment. One of my friends up in San Jose works for one of the big graphics companies, and they're building cards with encryption baked into the cards because of the current DRM issues.
Okay.
So that's one comment, and so that's going on as we speak.
Okay. Are they taking an existing cryptographic card and concatenating it in some manner with the graphics card, or is it actually redesigning?
Designing new chips and
Okay.
things that go onto the card.
Okay.
The other that's what he explained to me. I'm trying to get more detail, but it's almost impossible.
Okay, so that would be good because then I could just run existing ciphers in the card, hopefully.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. And part of this has to do with the fact that the digital imagery, they want to encrypt the digital imagery from the media all the way into the display. So they want to do the decryption as late as possible.
Right, then no one can copy it. Okay. Hopefully.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Easily.
Easily.
Right. Not without a soldering iron.
Okay.
So that's part one. Part two is I know that there's a lot of the graphics cards do a lot of convolutional encoding and decoding kinds of things. And I was surprised to hear you say that wasn't useful and that kind of computation wasn't useful. I know that when we did image processing of various kinds, and some of my other jobs, we got involved in those kinds of issues, and I would have thought that would have been useful in encryption.
It turns out graphics cards, they treat everything as floating point values. And ciphers have to be precise. You can't change a bit due to routing or truncation. So even pixels get stored as floating point values. So when I implemented AES, even though I was treating everything as pixel components, like the red component and blue component, that actually got stored as a floating point value, and I had to do some tweaking with like adding 0.00001 to certain things when I did table lookups to get rid of the rounding issues. Okay, so doing like a straightforward multiplication, well, if it turns out being like 0.99999 versus 1.0001, and the graphics card mostly truncates the next lowest integer, then you get two different results.
I have one question. Regarding the related work, you mentioned that there are already some existing work that also trying to relate existing fixed size block cipher with a variable size block,
yes.
Elastic cipher. And you mentioned the problem with those results is that they kind of incur performance penalty.
Yes.
Probably I missed something here. What's the intuition behind your work that make your work more efficient than the previous results? What's the intuition behind that?
Just want to go back to the slide. Yes. Okay. Now, in Below and Rogowade's model, if you look at the M3, M4 portion, that's 1 plus a fractional block. So that's what I'm concerned with database encryption and IP packets. Well, they're incurring 3 full applications to get sigma and 1 more to get the bits to XOR with M3. So they have 4 applications with block cipher. If I had packet the data, I just needed 2 full applications. So they're more than twice the work. So there was no computational gain here. And at the time they were doing this, they were just targeting having the ciphertext be the same length as the plaintext. Okay. So my intent was to do something that offered a performance gain in addition to maintaining the length of the plaintext. Okay, did that answer your question? Okay, thanks.
When you say 4 rounds, are you assuming some pipelining? Or
4 entire applications of the block cipher. So there's no pipelining here. With cipher blocks chaining mode, you have to wait for the first ciphertext block to come out to put it into the next one with the XOR here. So this has to be computed first and XOR with the next plaintext. That has to be computed to get the next one. So there's no parallel efficiency gain.
Right. Well, you said 4, but I'd count 7 applications of block
Okay.
cipher.
Because they have 3 entire blocks plus the fraction M3 here. If I just had 1 in the fractional block, I would only have M3, M4 up here.
Okay.
Okay, so I really, they had, this was from their paper, their diagram was showing 3 entire blocks, and I only want 1 plus a fraction, so I just get this piece here, 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions on this side or Cynthia? Questions?
Well, I already asked my question.
Okay, sure. Then we open the floor to the general audience. I thought you had a question.
Okay, I was just kind of a little bit curious. I noticed how the performance gain reduced when you started to approach the double factor.
Yeah.
I was wondering if there's any kind of data application, or maybe even IP packets. Have you done any analysis to see if perhaps the average size of packet is almost 2, would be almost 2? I mean, is there any way that you can find that out, considering we had right now?
It would depend on the application. Up until a little over a year ago, I was working at AT&T on voice over IP security and a lot of voice over IP applications for business services. Because of the data that had to be included in the header information of the VoIP packet, we were reaching cases where we were just below the maximum transmission unit for the router, and adding a byte or 2 on caused it to fragment the packet. So there we were at the point where we just wanted to avoid the 16-byte case going to 17 or 18 bytes. But other applications, I mean, it really depends on what it is, might have 30 bytes be common, may not. Okay.
So what you described with your graphics processor sounds like something you could use for a remote trusted path, or at least for reading data from a trusted server.
Correct.
And so the other part of the problem is getting data from the person in a trusted way remotely to the trusted server. Have you guys thought about any work in that area?
Correct. There's several aspects or types of data the user can input. First, if he was clicking the mouse on the screen, what he clicked on, the graphics card could encrypt and send back. The actual mouse click, the coordinates of it, would be attainable by the system. If he used the keyboard, what keys he punched could be attainable by the system. So you need a protected keyboard. There are portable keyboards that support encryption, but that would be a separate issue from the graphics card. Then if it was a video conference and the user audio going in either direction could easily be encrypted in the DSP, the digital signal processor, because there are programmable ones on the market that are very easy to program in C-like code and can support existing ciphers. The video could be encrypted with the same concept by putting the encryption in the actual camera. Okay, but it'll be component by component.
Right.
Okay.
Right, no general solution
Yeah.
there.
Isn't there some, I don't know, attack of knowing the size of the plain text? Because when you're doing a variable length block cipher, right, the ciphertext is actually going to be the length of the plain text. Whereas with cipher block shading, with your padding, there's some leeway there. You don't actually know how big the plain text is.
Correct, except in most applications, if the attacker knows the application, he knows what the ciphertext length would have been plus what the padding length is. Like if you're encrypting an IP header, he knows the IP version 4 header was 20 bytes, and thus the next 12 bytes were due to padding. If he didn't know what the length was, then there is some benefit to padding. Okay, yeah. Okay, yes.
I had a question for someone to that, actually. I was wondering if there's any evidence to suggest that using elastic block is more secure than using, more cryptographically secure than using static blocks with padding, like some kind of plain text or no plain text attack.
Okay. My reduction method and what I've done with linear and differential cryptanalysis independently, the differential cryptanalysis especially, I'm deriving the same bound. I get to the point where the probability is less than or equal to 2 to the negative b minus y, so I would need more plain texts than feasible to perform a differential attack. But that's the same result that the fixed size block ciphers get less than or equal to 2 to the negative b, then they give up because there's no need for further analysis. The linear equations is a direct one-to-one correspondence. If they existed for G, they exist for G prime and vice versa. So I have it being as secure. I don't know if it's more secure against certain types of attacks. For certain modes of operations, like if you're familiar with electronic code book mode, ECB, where you just encrypt block by block, which means if you have two plain texts which are identical, the ciphertext blocks are identical. Okay. If instead I vary the block size, so I still encrypt block by block, but the block size is picked randomly based on a key value, by encrypting like New York Times articles, research papers, logs from web pages, or logins to systems, I'm able to show that by varying the block size randomly, I either get no patterns detected, or in cases where it was a log file and there was high repetition, I reduced the amount of patterns by over 90%. So it can be useful in a mode of encryption that way. Okay. Yes?
That's another question. For you said you could use it for hashing. Would that, you think it would be the same way? You couldn't get more secure, it would just be as secure as whatever the original hash was?
Well, hash functions they were a different structure. So the ideal to use it for hash functions was to get more secure than the existing ones, which obviously are being broken because it was highly repetitive in what the operations they were performing. So try to introduce some variation, so maybe have a function, but then be varying what bits are actually going into it. Okay, yes?
Excuse me, you said for your key scheduler you used, was it RC4?
I was using RC4 because I wanted to demonstrate the concept of a standalone key schedule that was generating pseudo-random key bits. So I know RC4 has more ones. After about 32 megabytes of data, you might get more ones than zeros. But in the amount of expanded keys I need, using RC4 is sufficient. If you discard the first 512 bytes that come out, which is why it ends up being slower than AES's key schedule, you can't distinguish the amount of bits I need for the expanded key from random. Okay.
Did you try, I'm just curious, was there any other types you tried as far as experimenting to notice if they improved efficiency or anything? As far as, I think you said it was 4 times longer than the
It was about 6 to 8 times longer, depending on my block size, because I need more expanded key bits as the block size increases. I didn't try other key schedules, or other stream ciphers as key schedules, because a few years ago, when I was doing my candidacy exam for the PhD, I was comparing several ciphers, and the other stream ciphers that were tended to be used at the time were slower than RC4. Okay. And RC4 is a very simple function, easy to implement, as opposed to the number of operations required in other stream ciphers. Okay.
Any other questions? No?
Yes? Okay.
So you have
about reducing the elastic block cipher to a static block cipher in order to analyze the various attacks against the system. Have you thought of, or are you aware of any possible attacks that would be specifically targeting the elastic block cipher?
What type of attack would most easily target it would be differential cryptanalysis. My analysis did not assume the mixing step at the beginning, so I assumed that the attacker knew exactly which Y bits were left out of the first round for encryption or decryption. So what type of attack would probably be targeted at the elastic block cipher would somehow be able to use the Y bits to cancel out any difference that came out of the round function. But I've been able to show that with the way I'm setting the number of rounds, that you still get the probability of a differential characteristic holding is low enough to preclude a differential attack. Okay. And then there's higher order differentials which just use the second derivative, which try to do the same thing. But so it's the same concept. Try to use the Y bits to counter what came out of the round function.
I think because of time, we need to stop here, and because Debra needs to go to another meeting. Thank you, Debra.
Thank you.